This is an old story. A fossil from a digital dark age I hadn't thought about in over a decade. It bubbled up from the depths of my memory today, probably triggered by the smell of rain on hot pavementa. Smell that always takes me back to being young, stupid, and broke. I need to document this before it fades away again. A tiny, perfect monument to pre-adult pettiness. First, we have to travel back. Way, way back. To the before times. A time when checking your email was something you did at a desk, not from your pocket. A time when a text message cost 10 cents apiece, and we painstakingly typed them out on a number pad, using T9 predictive text and praying it guest party and not pasty. This was the dawn of the smartphone, and I was a foot soldier in the revolution. My kingdom was a Radio Shack, a place that still smelled of solder and potential, where you could buy a single resistor for a project or the newest Motorola RAZR. I was 18, perpetually riding a gentle, hazy buzz from the ditch weed we could afford, and surprisingly good at my job. I could explain a family share plan to a confused parent and knew the exact pressure to apply when closing the clamshell case on a Nokia to get it to click just right. This expertise becomes relevant later. Now, enter the antagonist of our tale, Dave. Dave wasn't a friend. He was a social fixture, a human barnacle that had attached itself to the hull of our friend group in middle school and could not be scraped off. We tolerated him out of a weird, ingrained habit and a shared geographic history. He was that guy, the one who showed up to pre-games already obliterated on cheap vodka, who thought volume was a substitute for personality, and whose favorite pastime was identifying the smallest, quietest person in the room and trying to pick a fight with them. He was a black hole of fun, sucking all the light and energy out of any room he entered. This story takes place in the final days of our forced proximity, just before the great diaspora of graduation scattered us to colleges and real jobs, finally allowing us to surgically remove Dave from our lives like the cancerous growth he was. The scene was a classic low-stakes high school get-together. Not a rager, just 9 or 10 of us crammed into a friend's rec room, fueled by a case of warm beer and a sense of impending, bittersweet freedom. The air was thick with the smell of cheap carpet, pizza, and Lynx body spray. And then, as if summoned by our mild enjoyment, Dave arrived. He didn't knock. He never knocked. He just let himself in, a storm cloud in an affliction t-shirt, already slurring his words and smelling like a distillery's floor mat. The mood in the room instantly flatlined. True to form, within 20 minutes, he was squaring up to my friend Kevin, a scrawny band kid, who had done nothing but exist peacefully in a corner. Dave, fueled by liquid courage and profound insecurity, threw a sloppy, wide-arced sucker punch. Kevin, more surprised than anything, simply sidestepped. Dave's own momentum did the work. He pirouetted gracelessly, his feet tangling, and executed a perfect faceplant onto the linoleum of the kitchen floor. It was a beautiful, pathetic sight. And as he went down, a sleek, black object catapulted from the pocket of his overly tight jeans. It skittered across the floor, coming to rest under the table. His pride and joy. A brand new BlackBerry Pearl. This was it. The pinnacle of tech. It had a tiny trackball, a Shure-type keyboard, and could in theory access the mobile web. It was a status symbol, and Dave never shut up about it. He was out cold. A collective, silent look passed between all of us. It was a look of unanimous, unspoken agreement. We descended upon that phone like vultures. We passed it around, a sacred object of mischief. Someone changed his contact name for his mom to Warden. Someone else set his background to a poorly photoshopped picture of his face on a baby's body. It was my turn. I cradled the device, my Radio Shack training kicking in. I navigated the menus with the ease of a master thief. He had a generic, tinny, polyphonic ringtone. It was an insult to the device's potential. I had a downloaded sound file on my own crap phone. Gandalf's iconic, thunderous, "You shall not pass." From Fellowship of the Ring, it was about 10 seconds of pure, audio glory. With a few deft clicks, I set it as his default ringtone. I handed the phone off, smug in my superior contribution to the evening's sabotage. The next person, a quiet techie guy named Leo, took it with a sly grin. "Oh, nice," he muttered. "But I think I can do one better." We all laughed, assuming he'd just make the text font unreadable or something. We slid the phone back into Dave's pocket. He eventually came to, groaned, blamed the slippery floor, and stumbled out, none the wiser. We laughed about the ringtone for a day, and forgot about it. 2 weeks later, I was at my throne behind the Radio Shack counter, restocking blister packs of SIM cards, when the door chimed with an aggressive fury. In stormed Dave. His face was a thunderous shade of purple. He slammed his BlackBerry down on the counter so hard, I thought the trackball would pop out. "You," he snarled, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You work with this shit. You need to fix this. Those assholes at Bell fucked up royally, and they owe me a massive apology." He shoved his paper bill across the counter. My eyes widened. It was, without a doubt, the largest phone bill I had ever seen in my life. The total, circled in angry red pen, was $3,487.62. What happened?" I asked, my professional customer service voice barely masking my awe. "Data," he roared, as if the word itself was a curse. $3,500 in data charges. "I didn't download anything. Their system is broken." I took his phone. My heart was starting to hammer. A dark, delicious suspicion was forming in my mind. I navigated through his menus, my fingers moving on autopilot. I checked his download history. And there it was. The truth. In glorious high-definition detail. Leo. That magnificent, petty bastard. He hadn't just messed with a setting. Using some early janky file-sharing app and the homeowner's unprotected Wi-Fi, he had somehow located and downloaded the entire The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Not the crappy, compressed versions. We're talking full, high-quality movie files. The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King were all sitting there, in his media folder, having been dutifully downloaded byte by expensive byte. He had filled the phone's memory to the absolute brim, and then, for good measure, it must have continued syncing something in the background for days, racking up a catastrophic data bill once it left the safety of Wi-Fi. I looked from the phone, to the bill, to Dave's furious, clueless face. In that moment, my path was clear. As a Radio Shack employee, I had a direct line. I had a cheat sheet of codes and phrases. I had, on multiple occasions, been a hero to little old ladies who'd accidentally downloaded a $50 ringtone. I could have called my Bell rep. I could have spun a tale about a software glitch and unauthorized downloads. I could have gotten every single cent of that bill wiped clean. It would have been the work of 10 minutes, but I didn't. I thought of Kevin, nearly sucker-punched. I thought of every party he'd ruined, every insult he'd hurled, every moment of peace he'd shattered. I thought of 18 years of Dave. I handed him back his phone and his astronomical bill. I adopted a mask of profound, sympathetic regret. "Wow, Dave, that is just brutal. Man, those carriers are ruthless," I said, shaking my head with faux sadness. I slid a pre-printed card with a 1-800 number for Bell customer service across the counter. "You're gonna have to take it up with them directly. There's nothing I can do from here. Really sucks. Good luck, man." The look of impotent rage on his face was better than any hype. He snatched the card and stormed out, sputtering curses. I never found out for sure if he had to pay it. I like to think he did. I like to think he spent years paying off a trilogy he never even watched. A permanent, monthly tribute to his own shitty personality. Fuck you, Dave. And thank you, Leo, wherever you are. You truly were the Lord of the Ringer.